when I first went into business, I had two mentors, Tom Hendricks and Jack McConico. Tom Hendricks owned the big company and Tom's still around. He's one of the most successful, maybe the most successful business person in Tennessee. They're naming college buildings after him in Tennessee. That's how successful a business person Tom Hendricks was. And then Jack McConico was his vice president. And it was this tremendous company. I had never seen a company so big. There were hundreds and hundreds of people there. But Jack McConico, the vice president, he was about my age at that time, and I was a kid. He spotted me, and I saw him when we talked, and it felt like I had known him my entire life. And he took me under his wing, and when we would have a meeting, he would bring me into his office. There were hundreds of other salesmen there, and he would bring me into his office and sit me down and start teaching me about business.
Two words that come up fairly frequently on this podcast when we're talking about leadership, business, entrepreneurship, life even, are mindset and intentionality, which feels like it's not a word, but the intention behind what you're trying to achieve. My guest today has had a pretty remarkable career. He's an author. We'll be hearing all about his book. He'll be sharing some great stories and insights from the book, from the process of writing it, what he's learned along the way, of how he went from being the self-described worst student in high school to becoming an educator, a college graduate, and today an author and real estate investor with 50 years of experience in business. His name is Dennis J. Henson. He is extremely passionate about his book, about his subject, and about the stories that he shares with us today, as will be evident from the start of this interview. So without further ado, let's get Dennis on the show.
Welcome to the Leading with Integrity podcast. Leadership talk for the modern manager. With your host, David Hatch.
Well, first things first, Dennis, welcome to Leading with Integrity. Great to have you on the show.
Well, David, thank you very much. I appreciate you having me.
Of course, yeah. And let's kick us off then by handing over to you, really, to tell everyone a bit about yourself, your career history, your background, your story so far, and what you get up to today.
Most of my life, I've been a real estate investor. When I graduated from high school, I went to college to take music and become a band director. And I did that. I taught high school bands, and I taught some in college. And then I moved into the business world in 1975, so I've been in business for 50 years. And the majority of that time was doing real estate investing. I've held other positions, but I always had the real estate investing going on at the same time. So about the last 20 years, I've taken on quite a few students, and their success has been my success. So 5 years ago, I decided to start writing down some of the things that I had learned, and that's why we're here today, because I've completed the book.
Their success is my success. I love that statement because that is so true for leadership as well, of course. And I think, yeah, it's an important thing to remember, isn't it, when you're in that sort of role of teaching, imparting knowledge, wisdom, as it were, or leadership, is that it's not always about the individual and what you're doing. It's about the people that you are there to support.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay. So the book, tell us more about that. What inspired you to write it? And I've got a question about the cover as well, but let's start with the inspiration behind it.
When I came to Dallas-Fort Worth, I started investing in real estate, and I wanted to attend real estate investor meetings. But the Dallas-Fort Worth area is a very large area. So the closest real estate groups were an hour away, or even further if there was traffic, and there's There usually is traffic. So I decided, well, I'll just start a group in Arlington, and that way I get to kind of choose who I want to hear and how I want to present it. So after I started the group, I thought, well, the best way to learn is to teach. I started teaching classes. I would teach short sales, subject to, private money, anything that advanced that had to do with real estate. If I wanted to learn about notes, then I would schedule an elite meeting and say, Dennis Henson's going to be teaching about notes, and everybody come. That gave me a month to learn about everything there was to know about real estate notes, because I knew they were going to hit me with a lot of questions, and usually 60 to 100 people would show up, and I didn't want to be embarrassed. So it really worked. I learned an awful lot about advanced techniques. One of the members came up to me one day and he said, Dennis, I'm about to retire in about 3 weeks, and I want you to mentor me. And I said, well, I would love to do that, but I really don't have time. My real estate investing business takes up a lot of my time, and the rest of my time is taken up by preparing for these classes. And he looked at me and he said, you didn't understand what I just said. He said, I'm about to retire, and you're going to train me on how to do what you're doing. And I said, well, let me think about it. He said, well, let's have lunch and then we'll discuss it. So I told my wife, Norma, I said, I'm going to meet Mike Chase, and he wants me to teach him individually, and I just don't have time. I'm going to tell him no. She said, okay. So we had lunch, and after lunch, he said, let's talk business. And he reached into his suit pocket and he pulled out a checkbook, opened it up and handed it to me, and he said, here, fill this in. And I said, you mean the amount? And he said, yes. So I thought, oh, I've got you now. I'm going to put an amount here that you're not going to want to pay. So I wrote down an amount that I was sure no one would ever pay. And without even looking at it, he took the checkbook, signed the check, tore it out, and handed me the check. He didn't even look at the amount. That's when I started teaching. That was in about 2005 or 2006. So I thought, well, my goodness, if people are going to pay me this much money, they better be successful. I mean, I get a bad reputation. So I put together a program that I thought, if they do this, they will be successful. And they were. Over the next 15, 18 years, I had 400 students, and they just blew it away. Some of them are some of the most successful business people in Texas. I mean, we're talking about millions and millions and millions of dollars worth of real estate. So because of that, I got invited to speak at expos and different real estate groups. And I was on a podcast one day, and the host said, Dennis, why are your students so successful? What makes them, produce where it seems like other people's students aren't doing that well? And I said, well, I haven't changed their habits. If they can form success habits, they'll become successful. Then he said, what's the number one success habit? Oh, my goodness. And I thought for a second. I said, have them form the habit of reading something positive every day that leads them toward their ultimate goal, which it would be real estate investing. So after the podcast was over, I thought, well, that was really a good answer. Wouldn't it be great if there were some kind of a tool or an app or a book that would help people form this habit? And then it hit me. And I mean, it hit me hard. It was like, Dennis, for 50 years, you've been collecting success stories, poems, quotes, and books that are highly motivational. You can put all these together in a book, and then people can form the habit regardless of their time. If everybody's busy, so if they get home and they're exhausted and they haven't done their habit of reading today, they can open the book in the back and there's quotes. Some of the quotes are 5 words or 6 words. So they can read a positive quote and go to sleep thinking about something positive. If they have 30 minutes between meetings, they can read a short story. If they have 5 minutes, they can read a poem. Or if they go to the airport, they have 3 hours, they can pick one of the books that's listed in the back, which is a 50-year collection of books that really motivate you. And they can read for hours. So that there's no excuse. So I thought, well, I can do this, in a couple of months, I'll have the book and it'll be ready and we'll go from there. Well, 5 years later, the book was published because I had 100 stories. I had to eliminate half of them or pick the best ones. And then I had to go back and prioritize the book, and I had to go through, and I wasn't an author. So I had to learn the whole process. So it took 5 years, but the product that I came out with was so good. I was on a podcast about 3 weeks ago with a publisher. This guy prints hundreds of books. I mean, he prints books for people. He held my book up. Let's see if I've got a copy here. He held my book up like this. And he said, "This is the nicest book I've ever held in my hand." Now, that was from a major book publisher. And it is nice. I owned a printing company one time, so I know about papers, and I know about binding, and I know about, embossed covers. And so I really went all out. This is a gorgeous book, the deluxe copy. And it's priced normally for a hardcover book. And then I also have it in soft covers so that people can afford it, and it's on audio book and an ebook. And Dave, if it's okay right now, I'll just give the ebook to everyone watching in, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm not going to say no to that.
So if you're watching, and you'll go to realimpactbook.com and scroll to the bottom where it says podcast attendee, you can click on that, you put your name and email, and the book is automatically sent to you. In other words, I've been on podcasts and I've said this, and there were other people on there, and they started, I got it. I mean, you don't have to wait 3 days, and you're not put on a mailing list. Now, there's a tab there that says, when you have more books, I want to know. If you click that tab, I'll let you know when I have other books. But this is not a spam list. It's just to get the book out, because I know that the book helps people. That's why the book was written, not to make me wealthy. I've got real estate. I'm doing okay. This book was written to improve the quality of people's lives. And it really does. If you go to Amazon and read the reviews, there are people there saying, "Oh, this book just came at the right time. I really needed this." So apparently it's doing pretty well. It has more than 100 reviews and a 5-star rating. So I'm pretty proud of that. I've won several awards for it, but I hope that you'll take it. I hope everybody will get one and think of 2 or 3 people that it will help. Give it for graduation, give it to people in nursing homes, give it to groomsmen at weddings. I mean, they're wonderful gifts, and it's, very affordable. Where you're going to get a super nice legacy gift. My aunt gave me a book when I graduated from college in 1973, and I still have it on my bookshelf. I mean, people do not throw away nice books. It goes in their library. So this is a legacy. If you want someone to remember you, this is a great book. So hope that answered that question.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I definitely empathize with that. I don't think I've ever thrown away a book. I'm a book hoarder. I'm not so good at reading them all, but I'll get there one day. All
right.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a couple of things in there that you said that I absolutely loved, like the anecdote about if the best way to learn something is to teach it. Like, that's so true, isn't it? Because you feel that immediate pressure and the desire to kind of lead it by example as well, and you want to know that what you're saying is real and true and accurate. So you've got to go and study it yourself in great detail.
Right. Well, there's actually more to it than that. When you actually teach, when you actually teach, it attaches differently to your brain than just taking it in. When you're giving it out, then it's a deeper learning.
And I find as well, I don't know if you found this, but you learn from the people you're teaching as well. They'll always have a different perspective on it, or they'll know something you don't, or they've read something you haven't seen yet. And it's, so absolutely. And it's really good fun as well, I think, when you get it right and the class is open to it, it's really good. And then, I mean, we covered the other thing I was going to raise, which is about the power of reading. It's it feels a bit to me, I don't want to say a dying art, because I think a lot of people are still writing books, aren't they? But it feels like the physical book and the literature of it, the whole, that sort of ethos behind it, isn't seen as important as it was even when I was growing up. I don't know what your perspective on that is as an author as well.
This book was intended to be more than just a book to read. It's a system, because first of all, to use the system in the book, you have to decide, what is it I want? Who do I want to become? What do I want to do? The book's no good to you unless you take that first step. You have to decide, okay, here's what I really want. And now you're going to read something positive every day that moves you in that direction. But it also reminds you every single day where you're going, because your mind is going 1,000 different directions. And if you don't have something that every single day redirects your ship into the right direction, it's like a ship without a rudder. Where you're going to end up, who knows? It may probably not be where you initially wanted to go. So by redirecting every day, it has a powerful, it's almost like a magnet. It pulls you in that direction. So this is a powerful book, and it's 50 years of experience. So I think anyone would benefit. Anyone. I can't think of any person, any industry that wouldn't benefit by using this book to their advantage.
Well, fair enough. I mean, it's touching on things like, well, mindset, of course, but that intentionality aspect as well. Because I mean, there's a lot of people, I think we've probably all done it at some point in our lives. We tend to lose the direction, that sort of the go with the flow mindset, which, on its own in isolation, there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. But if you have big ambitions or any ambitions and you want to achieve something, you're not going to do it by just going with the flow, I would suggest. Maybe that's biased, or I don't know, but
you're right. That's just the law of nature.
Well, there is that, yeah. Unless you just by luck or convenience, you just happen to be in the right river and it's going the place you want to end up anyway.
Well, if your desire is strong enough, you don't need something to redirect you. If you have a burning desire, you wake up every morning heading in the right direction anyway. But most people don't have that burning desire. They don't understand that that's something that needs to be cultivated. This book will help them cultivate that.
Okay, fair enough. And so the artwork on the cover, speaking of burning desires, is it Aladdin's lamp, or?
It is. Let me show you a picture. Whoops.
Yeah.
Can you see the lamp?
I can. Yeah. I mean, I'd seen it before. I did my research, but
okay.
So what's the significance of the lamp then? Tell us the story.
It's a mystery. Here it is. You have to go to realimpactbook.com, and up in the left-hand corner, it says the lamp mystery. You have to go to the website to learn what the mystery is, and you'll enjoy it. It's really good. It's an audio recording, and it's also written out, but it's an amazing thing. It's about a very powerful, well, I'll give you a little hint. Have you heard the story of Aladdin? A young man, he found that he purchased an old lamp and he was cleaning it. And then he found that it had magical powers, that if he rubbed the lamp and told the genie exactly what he wanted, he could have anything that he wanted. So you probably thought when you heard that story, well, that's just a child's story. It doesn't have anything to do with reality. but that's not true. It's a very powerful story that has a lot to do with reality. And I'm going to let you learn the rest by going to, going to the website and listening to the audio. It's only a couple of minutes, and you'll enjoy it. I promise you will. So.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you're giving any spoilers away on the story of Aladdin there. Like that's been around long enough. I'll be amazed if anyone doesn't know the story. Right. So, I mean, we mentioned mindset a moment ago, and obviously that's very important in terms of achieving goals, and as we've already hinted at, and it's something I know that you emphasize as well. So I was wondering, can you share perhaps a pivotal moment in your own life or in your own career where a change in mindset led to a really significant achievement or growth or success?
I can. When I was in high school, I was probably the worst student in high school. You know, I had dyslexia, so I couldn't read very well. I was ADD, so I didn't want to be in the room. I felt like I was trapped. So school was not fun for me. I would do anything to get out of class. I was from a very poor family. My father was seriously hurt in World War II, so we lived on a veteran's disability, so we didn't have any money. I was failing the ninth grade when the teacher told my mother that I'd better start studying or I was going to, probably end up leaving school. So this was after the ninth grade. I brought my grades up to a D. So I had poor grades, no money. I hated school. I was bored to death, and I couldn't name 3 people from my school that went to college. So college was the furthest thing from my mind. I had never considered it. It was laughable. I couldn't afford it. It wasn't anything in my future. So over the intercom one day, the principal said, everybody come to the auditorium. We're having assembly after lunch. And I thought, oh man, that's great. That means no classes for the afternoon. I was thrilled to death. I didn't care what it was. It was going to be better than class. So we went into the auditorium and the bleachers were pulled out and there was a band setting. And I was in the band. I played the drums. I wasn't very good. I was just learning the rudiments. But this college band played a concert. And I thought that's pretty good. I really like marching band better than concert, but yeah, it was nice. It was a lot better than class. So after it, the director's name was Walters. He turned around and said, well, I brought a little treat for you here today. We brought our marching drum section and they want to put on a little show. So they came out and got on the basketball floor and put on their drums. They snapped to attention and counted down. And I had been learning the drum rudiments. There's 26 standard American rudiments, and I'd really tried to learn those. I'd gone to band camp at our music camp at the University of Alabama and wanted to learn to become a drummer. And when I got back home, I was excited about the rudiments, but I looked all of the drummers up that had ever played in the Cherokee County High School band, and none of them had ever heard of a rudiment. And I didn't know anybody else except for people at music camp that did. I had heard them play the Downfall of Paris and the 3 Counts, some drum. So here's these college drummers, about 16 of them. They look like men to me. And they started playing this, what I learned later was the Southerners cadence, which started out with everyone hitting their drum, cymbals bang, and they all yell, hey! And it just shook the auditorium. Pow! And then they started playing really soft. They were just playing, and then they built up. It got louder and louder and louder and louder. Then it broke into antiphonal, where these drums were playing these beats back and forth. I thought, wow, that's pretty good. Until this point, they hadn't played a rudiment. Then they stopped playing and started yelling these Latin phrases. Invictus, Imperium, Ave, and oh my God, what are they doing? And then they broke into this drum cadence, which was all drum rudiments. 17 stroke rolls, flams, paradiddles, flamencues, I thought, my God, I've never heard anything like this. So when they finished, everybody just clapped and clapped. And they said, well, we got one more number for you. Call it number 17. So then they did this thing where the cymbals played and the bass drums played. The cymbals were turning around this way, bass drums were going up and down, the tenors were going sideways, and the snare drums were doing the camel walk. And then they had a break and did it again. Well, when this all finished, the student body went nuts. I mean, they were yelling and screaming and clapping and going. I mean, and I was just sitting there. I was just totally in shock. I thought, I didn't know anything like this existed. So I went to my band director and I said, look, I don't know. Tell me how to get into that. I want to be part of that group. And he looked at me and he smiled and he said, Dennis, you have to go to college to be in that group. And with your grades, they're not going to let you in college. And I looked at him and I said, if I change my grades, can I be in that group? And he said, well, that's the first step. So that morning when I got up, college was the first thing from my mind. I was broke. I didn't have the grades. That afternoon when I went home, I told my mom, I'm going to college and we're going to figure out how to do it. So to make a long story short, 3 years later, I was in college. And I became a member of the Jacksonville State University drum section. And I became the section leader. And before I left the school, I was the drum major of the band. So you can, something can come and change your life, or you can change it yourself. When I went into business, I started with a large business out of Tennessee, and they gave me 3 books on the first day. They gave me Think and Grow Rich, Success of Glenn Van Method, and The Greatest Salesman in the World by Og Mandino. When I read those books, I had another earth-moving experience. I was a different person. I couldn't wait to get in front of a prospect because I knew I was motivated. I was going to be successful. I was going to make a lot of money, and I did. I made so much money. I went out and bought a house. I bought a Mercedes-Benz. I got married. I mean, I had all the toys any 27-year-old boy could have. So life can change in an instant, and it's all here. When this changes, your life changes. That's why this book is so important. It can help you change the direction of your life. It can help some young person. One of the things on the website is Help the Children. There's a charity. You click on that, and if you give a little bit of money, all the money that goes into that charity is to purchase this book for young people in disadvantaged communities. Every penny goes toward that. Get them the book. Get it in libraries where the schools can afford to have good books, to get it in adult centers, nursing homes, disadvantaged children. This book will change millions of people's lives. And it can change yours too. You should just try. Just get the book and read the introduction and read the magic formula. Give it a shot. You'll just be surprised. And the very first part of the book is testimonials from my students. I didn't know, I wasn't an author. I didn't know what to put in the first part of the book. Somebody said, well, you need reviews. I haven't written any books. So they said, well, maybe get a testimonial from someone. So I contacted my students, and they sent me testimonials. So someone came in one day and said, Dennis, I read your book. I just loved it. I said, oh, great. Which story did you like most? And they said, the story about the little girl from Brazil that could hardly speak English, who became extremely successful. And I laughed and I said, well, that's not a story in the book. That's a testimonial from one of my students. So I contacted her and I said, you have the best story in the book. And she said, well, I read the book and, I don't think that's the best story, but thank you for letting me know. So anyway.
Yeah, incredible. The passion that you have for this is very obvious, I have to say. It comes across very well. Presumably while you're at college, you did more than playing the drums, as much as you were enjoying that.
Well, yeah, when I got a BS degree, and then I got a master's degree, and then I worked on my doctorate. I had a fellowship to become a doctor, and then something happened, and my life changed, and I went into business, which I've never regretted. I really love business. I love the people. I love my employees. I love the contacts. I like making a lot of money.
And so were you straight into real estate, or was there another stop along the way? Or
when I finished college, I had been the drum major of the band, which is kind of a big thing in that part of the United States. So a lot of high schools wanted me to come. Well, one high school said, if you will come be our band director, we give you a house to live in. Well, no one else offered that. It was a rent-free home right there on the campus. I'd walk across the street, and I was at school, so I didn't have. So I signed the contract, and the principal came back and said, well, the board met, and they're not going to let you live in that house. Well, I was already the band director then. He said, but we have a little lot over here that you could put a mobile home on. And I said, well, I don't have a mobile home. And he said, well, I can't help you with that. So I bought a mobile home. I'd been living with band parents, going to band camp, and you had to be there really early. So I'd have to get up. They lived 10 miles out. I'd have to get up at 4:30 in order to be at band camp. So I got with my uncle. We purchased a mobile home, and we put it on that little lot, which was on Railroad Street. And I thought, finally, I get to sleep till 6:30. And that's wonderful, because I hadn't been getting any sleep. So the first night in the mobile home at 3:00 in the morning, I found out why they called it Railroad Street. This locomotive came within 8 feet of the mobile home, and it was shaking. I almost fell out of the bed, and then it blew its horn, and I thought, oh my God, this won't work. So I went and bought a house. So that was in 1970. That's when I started investing in real estate, because I rented out the mobile home, and my real estate investing career has grown from then.
Bit antisocial of the train driver, I have to say. But okay, so I mean, changing topic slightly then, although I think it is still relevant to a lot of your experiences and the work that you've done over the years. What advice would you offer to a new leader, first-time manager, new business owner even, who might be experiencing those quite common problems of self-doubt and low confidence?
I'm so glad you asked that, David. The answer to the question is here. It really is. So if
I walked into that one, didn't I?
Yeah, if you're experiencing self-doubt or want to have a change in your mindset, get the book, read the introduction, and read the magic formula, and sincerely will help you. Because, well, if nothing else, the list of books in the back are super powerful for a business owner, or for a salesman, or for someone that needs a little extra motivation. It's Real Impact 1 does not have all of the books I wanted to put in it, but I've got Real Impact 2 coming out, Real Impact 3, so you'll have a series. If you start reading the books in the back, you'll never finish, because I give you enough books to last you the rest of your life. And I also give you, what to read about. You don't just read about business, you read about health. You read about relationships. It has a whole list of things and people. I couldn't put all the people in the book I wanted to that were interested. So what I did in the back of the book, I said, well, read the autobiography of, and I put about 50 people there. And then I said, well, do research on these. And I put another 50. And I said, read about these things, these events that happen throughout history. They're very interesting, Pompeii, all of the wonderful things that happened. That wasn't wonderful, but it was interesting. So the book inspires growth, and it does a lot of things. It unlocks hidden laws of nature that you never thought about before, especially in the quotes There's some quotes in there that just knock you down. And there's some poems in there. When I read this book, I've read it 1,000 times. And when I have a podcast where they're featuring one of the stories, I listen to the story again, and the tears still run down my eyes, because part of the criteria for being in the book, it had to be, the story had to be cathartic. Just before I read this book, I read again The Greatest Salesman in the World by Mendino, and I thought, well, I want to write like he does. He's great. In a couple of places in the story, a tear came to my eye, and I thought, if my stories can make a tear come to people's eyes, I'll have a winner. And so everybody that I talk to, I say, "What, have you read the book? Did any of the stories move you?" And every time they'll say, "Oh, yeah, that story here, this story made me cry." And I thought, well, I've accomplished my goal.
I feel like I have to ask you, like, what's your favorite book? Like, what's the best or most impactful book you've ever read?
Well, that's a hard question, because
I know,
I've
right?
listed, a number of books, and they're all my favorite. I think probably the most impactful book was Think and Grow Rich, because it was the first one. And I hadn't read a self-help or motivational book before that. And to me, it was just brand new. But the one that had the most impact on my life was probably The Greatest Salesman in the World by Mendino. The story's great, but the scrolls in the back, I adopted those scrolls. I said, I'm going to do this. And David, the funny part was, I didn't even understand what they meant. Most of them made sense. I'll greet this day with love in my heart. That makes sense. And then the others, then one of them said, I will multiply my value 100-fold. And I thought, here, I'm a brand new salesman in a new territory. I don't know anybody. I'm just going out making sales. How can I multiply my value? I didn't have any idea what that meant, but I made it a life search, and now I know. And that's in one of my next books called The 7 Secrets of Success, and it tells you in great detail how to multiply your value 100-fold. And before this interview's over, you'll probably know anyway.
Yeah, excellent. Well, I knew it was a difficult question, but I liked the answer as well. So thank you for sharing those. That's some good tips for anyone's reading list straight away. So let's move on to the subject of leadership then, because that is, after all, the purpose of Leading with Integrity, this podcast. So really interested, I think, to hear the answer to this first one on this topic.
Okay.
Which is, so from all of your career experience so far, from those decades in business, from everything you've done before that as well, what's the biggest leadership lesson that you've learned in that time?
I had the privilege of attending Jacksonville State University during the years that Dr. David L. Walters was the band director. And that band was so far ahead of any other band. You can still go back on YouTube today and find recordings of that band back in the 60s and early 70s. It was head and shoulders above. I could have gone to the University of Alabama. I could have gone to Auburn or, anywhere and gotten to be in the band, but I wanted to be in Jacksonville State Band because it was great. And I challenge you, go, anybody that's listening to this, go on YouTube and search the Marching Southerners and play a couple of those halftime shows, and you'll still be blown away. I mean, they got over 500 people in their band now, but back then we had maybe 150. But the band director had a unique style of leadership. He rarely came to band practice. He never came to sectionals. I mean, you didn't see him. So how did he have such a powerful, wonderful sound in these great shows that he put on? He did it through delegation. To be a section leader in that band was the ultimate, you couldn't get a better accolade at Jacksonville State than to be the section leader of the trumpet section or the drum section, and to become the drum major. You were the band director. As the drum major at Jacksonville State, you called the practice to order. You warmed the band up. You told them when to start. You told them, when to start over, where to go. You were the band director of the Southerners. And when it came time for the games or the parade, the band director didn't even shout. You didn't even know where he was, because we did it ourselves between the drum major and the section leaders. And that was a great lesson in leadership. The reason that he had such a wonderful band was because he didn't try to do it himself. He took advantage of the talent that he had at the school. Some of these kids were brilliant. So we had a wonderful trumpet section. I played trumpet one year, and I think Tyree Landers was the section leader, and he really put us through. We practiced and practiced and practiced. Well, then I became the drum section leader, and we would practice some days we would practice 7 or 8 hours. I remember some of the guys saying, "Hey, look, we've got classes, we got homework to do. It doesn't matter. We got to learn this stuff." And we were good. And when we played, people watched, and it was an honor to be part of it. So I learned a lot from Dr. Walters, and he passed away a couple of years ago, but he's still one of the most respected band directors that's ever lived. So it was a good thing to be there when he was there. You learn an awful lot about not just band directing, but life and business.
It's often, I find, I don't want to say the best leaders, but the ones who have the most lasting impact on individuals. Like even now you remember that experience. It is those people who they do the absolute far opposite of micromanagement. They are, they're the safety net approach, but beyond that, they will let you just go make your own mistakes, learn by doing to an extent, and they're never. You never have that sense though that you don't have the support you need when you need it.
That's right.
And yet you're also allowed to just go and do things yourself and learn about leadership and put it into practice at the same time. And I had very similar experience in a very different context when I was a teenager as well. And that in a lot of ways shaped my understanding of leadership for the next couple of decades. So it's such a great story. Thank you for sharing that. And if I was going to ask the follow-up question, I suspect it's the same answer, but what's been your best experience being led? Was it that one, or has there been another as well?
Well, the first part of the book is a dedication to my mentors. So I listed my high school band director, my college band director. When I first went into business, I had 2 mentors, Tom Hendricks and Jack McConico. Tom Hendricks owned the big company and Tom's still around. He's one of the most successful, maybe the most successful business person in Tennessee. They're naming college buildings after him in Tennessee. That's how successful a business person Tom Hendricks was. And then Jack McConico was his vice president. And it was this tremendous company. I had never seen a company so big. There were hundreds and hundreds of people there. But Jack McConico, the vice president, he was about my age at that time, and I was a kid. He spotted me, and I saw him when we talked, and it felt like I had known him my entire life. And he took me under his wing, and when we would have a meeting, he would bring me into his office. There were hundreds of other salesmen there, and he would bring me into his office and sit me down and start teaching me about business. I remember one day he was saying, "Dennis, there are these certain laws, these laws of nature, that if you follow these laws, then your life is going to be easy. You're going to make a lot of money. People are going to respect you. They're going to love you. Everything's going to go great. But if you go against these laws, Your life's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult. You're not going to be able to have much success. Things are it's going to be a struggle. And so I remember when he was telling me that, I held my hand up just like this and I said, stop. He said, why? I said, I'm sold. Give me the book. And he laughed and he said, no, Dennis, I'm not selling you a book. It's not in one book, it's a life search. So when I left the office that day, I thought, it needs to be in one book. This was in 1975. And I started writing the book in 1975. It's called The 7 Secrets of Success. And I'll finish it this year, 50 years later. So that's the next book you should look for. And you're talking about, it's powerful. It took 50 years, and reading the lives of many great people, and seeing the things that all lined up. And once I found the sequence of the 7, I could go back to any story from any of those leaders that I had ever met, and all of those things were in those stories. And I bet you want to know what they are. I can tell you the 7 secrets, or you can look online. You can just Google Dennis Henson 7 secrets. But the first one is get your mind right, which is what we've been talking about. All right? Seek wisdom, develop skills, make detailed plans, take massive action, form great alliances, and be persistent. Now, you might want to back that up and write those down. And then I write a chapter on each one, and then I use examples of different, successful people that you're familiar with. And then I also do one story that really highlights each of the 7. But I defy you to find some successful person that didn't go through those 7 stages. I mean, it's just, you can't find them. They don't exist. Because if you don't have your mind right, you're not ever going to be able to accomplish very much. It doesn't just fall in your lap. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah. Which again, I feel like it's challenging one of the myths, isn't it, of modern business culture and that whole entrepreneurial ethos, isn't it? I think a lot of people get into it and start businesses expecting overnight success and then don't know how to cope with it when that inevitably doesn't happen.
Right. There's a group called Alabama. It's a country western group. It was super successful. And one day, a media person said, well, what do you think about your overnight success? Was that a surprise? and Owen said, what about all those years we spent going from bar to bar and breaking up fights and getting bottles thrown at us? And nobody showed up but us. He said, what are you talking about, overnight success? I actually went to college with Randy Owen at Jacksonville State. He went to Jacksonville State also. So that group is special to me. And then they wrote My Home's in Alabama, which is special to me too, because that's true also.
Wow, celebrity connection.
Well,
getting everything in this episode, aren't we?
Well, he didn't know me and I didn't know him. We were just at school together. We're not close friends, but I admire him.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's right though. I mean, we overlook the often many years and decades even before that overnight success, don't we?
Right.
And I think there's a lot of examples in the business world of that as well. I mean, Amazon's probably quite a good one, isn't it? They spent quite a long time just selling books, and I say just selling books. That is still important, isn't it? But they certainly weren't the multinational conglomerate that they are today. That didn't happen overnight either. I mean, pick a big successful company. It took years and years and years.
Yeah, well, even if it happened quickly, it was because they brought someone who had already gone through all of those problems and put them together, and they had the knowledge to make it happen quickly, which is really a good idea. That's one of the things. Form great alliances and multiply your value. The way you multiply your value is you take someone else and use their value, get them to work for you. And one of the things I do in my business, I use a lot of VAs, and then I have a staff. I have a wonderful staff, and pretty much all I do now is just make lists. Do this. I make the list and prioritize it, and then I know they're working on the most important thing, and I just keep passing those out, and things get done.
Yeah, that's a good point. Another lesson of leadership there is no leader succeeds alone, do they? It's all about the people
Absolutely.
around you. So,
well, they may, but it's going to be a much harder road.
I don't know. I'm a skeptic on that. I don't think you can do it alone. He says as a solo business owner.
Well, one of the 7 secrets is form great alliances.
Absolutely.
If you want to get through, if you want to become successful, you got to do all 7.
Definitely. And I think that's where having the wider network and the support culture, I suppose, even if you are a business of one, there's ways to find that elsewhere. Great. Okay. This, I think, I don't know. This is either going to be like a really difficult question or really easy. I'm not sure which way it's going to go for you, so I'm just going to ask it and we'll find out. If you could start your career over again, is there anything you would do differently?
Well, of course, there's things. I've gone over my life a number of times. I was offered the position to become the college band director at the University of Georgia Tech. And at the same time, I was being offered a fellowship to get a doctorate at the University of Mississippi. And then this big company offered me more money than I'd ever dreamed of receiving. So I could have gone in any of those directions, and I would have probably had an interesting life, but I wouldn't have the wonderful wife that I have. Probably I wouldn't have the dog that I have. I love my I love my dog, and I wouldn't have the friends that I have. I'd have others. It's not something that I think about a lot or dwell on. I dwell on the future, where I want to go, what I want to do. I'm doing right now what I want to do more than anything else. I'm letting people know about this wonderful book that's life-changing, that if it doesn't change their life, they can tell someone else and it'll change theirs. It's my legacy. I want to help people, it's not about the money, although I hope it sells 10 million copies and I make some money. That'd be nice. But I would rather that it would reach 10 million people and help them, because I'm not going to be around. I'm 77. I won't, 30 years from now, I'll be a memory, but the book will still be here. I listened to a recording of Napoleon Hill, and he was talking about the new book that he'd just written, Think and Grow Rich. I thought that's funny. It's new. I often wondered, did he have any idea of how many people, business people, that he would touch? And in that speech, he said, this book is already helping thousands of people, and over the years, it will help millions more. So he did know, and I think, well, did Socrates know that years and years and years after he's gone, hundreds of years, people will still be quoting him? Did that ever cross his mind? I don't know. But I'm telling you what, it's crossing my mind. There's things in this book that's going to change people's lives, and I'm going to be gone, but I'll still be connecting with them through my thoughts.
It's interesting, touching on a topic there. I was talking to someone else about this recently, this idea of legacy. It's my contention that in the internet age, I think we're all going to be remembered a lot longer than we might assume, because it's there forever, isn't it? Barring some apocalypse where electricity and the internet cease to exist, it's there for all time, effectively, isn't it?
Right.
So, which I find quite comforting, actually. I don't know about you.
I do. I think it's great.
Yeah. As for whether people like Socrates thought they'd still be talked about thousands of years later, who knows? I don't know. I mean, could they have conceived of the sort of society and technology that we have today? Probably not. Don't know. It's an interesting one, though. All right. Well, Dennis, time has been flying. I have to say, of all the guests, all the people I've met, you're probably the one that embodies the most the phrase infectious enthusiasm.
Well, thank you.
Because, yeah, I mean, it's hard not to want to read the book, hearing you speak about it and tell these stories. So I only have... Sorry,
that reminds me of one thing. I'm always looking for ways to become more successful. And I was listening to something on YouTube, and they were interviewing this guy who'd worked with super successful authors. And they said, well, what's the one thing that all super successful authors have in common? And I thought, oh, what is this? I want to know. And he said, they all believe in their book from deep in their soul. And I thought, I got that.
Yeah, definitely. And it comes through. I think the other aspect of it, I mean, I don't know what makes a successful book. I've never written one. But I do feel like it's got to be about more than writing it just to make some money. And I think, again, that's something that we really get from you is it's not about that. It's about changing lives. It's about helping people. And I think that matters as well. I think that makes people more likely to buy the book, paradoxically.
Right.
At least it does for me.
Let me pass on something positive. It feels good to help other people. And I'm going to tell you something that'll make you feel good. If you read a book that you really liked, think of the last book that you really liked. Go to Amazon, find that book, and give that person a 5-star rating and say, I like this book because you will make their day. They probably spent years and years and many, many more hours than you ever can imagine putting that book together. And you're going to give them a pat on the back, and it's going to make their day. And you're going to feel good the rest of the day. And while you're there, if you get a chance, maybe you can look for my book and give me a rating too. But whether you do that or not, that doesn't matter. If once a week or once a month, you just go there and give someone a good rating, it'll make you feel good. And I guarantee you it'll make them feel good. And the way nature works is when you plant seeds like that, they come back to you hundreds of times over. So that's just one little thing that you can do that's going to, make your life better.
Absolutely. And it works for podcasts as well, by the way, guys. Anyone in the audience who...
Great tip.
Leadership Heroes.
Right, well, Dennis, I've only got one question left for you. This one's usually my favourite one. It's called Leadership Heroes. So if you had to pick one person, it could be anyone you like. They could be alive or dead, past or present, even fictitious if you wish. But it's got to be someone who, in your opinion, would perfectly embody leadership. So who would that person be for you and why?
Well, the only reason it's hard is because you said one, because I have so many, I've already mentioned Dr. Walters, and I've already mentioned Jack McConaughey and Tom Hendricks. Each of the people in the book had such inspiring stories. Mary Kay, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, Abraham Lincoln. That's a powerful story. So you're right. It's a hard question. I don't even really know that I can give you a definitive answer, but if I have to, it'd be David L. Walters, the band director, past band director at Jacksonville State. He was an amazing person. And his favorite thing to say was, be kind to one another. That he wanted you to be kind. He was a kind person. And he said, remember, be kind. And he touched so many lives. And a part of this book would have never been written had it not been for him. So, his blood runs in my veins.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, it's a good choice because it's someone that you personally encountered. I think, much as I love like picking the celebrity examples or the famous people from history, it's not quite the same, I think, as
Right.
someone where you've experienced their leadership, you've seen them in action. I think that's more, it's nicer, it's more meaningful. Okay, well, I think that's all we've got time for. All that remains for me to say, Dennis, is thank you so much again for being here. I've enjoyed hearing your stories today. I'm looking forward to reading the book as well, and I'm sure many in the audience are as well. And I will pop those links in the show notes so everyone can find it easily. So thank you again so much, and have a great rest of your day.
Well, thank you for having me, David. This has been a lot of fun. I appreciate you.
Likewise. Thank you again to Dennis for his time and his conversations today. As promised, listeners and viewers, if you have a look in those show notes, the episode description, whatever it's called on whichever platform it is that you are listening or viewing this on, you will find the links to get a copy of his ebook, visit his website, find out that story of Aladdin's lamp. I'm curious myself. I'll be checking that out as soon as I finish recording this. And as always, I do encourage you, go and do that. We talked a bit today about the importance of not being on your own, whether as a leader or business owner or person in life. Building those alliances, as Dennis put it, having access to a supportive community of people you can learn from, learn with. And hopefully, if leadership is something you're focused on right now and you're looking to improve that, you're looking for support, resources to help you get over some of those challenges that we all face in our journey as leaders, then please do pay a visit to my website as well. It's www.leadingwithintegrity.co.uk. On there, you will find resources such as a Leadership Heroes quiz. Identify your own leadership hero. They are sci-fi themed, I'm afraid. Fair warning. You can also register for a Leadership Values workshop, which I run every 3 months. The next one is coming up very soon, actually. But you'll find details on that link. And of course, you can come and join us at the Integrity Leaders community. It's an online first leadership focused community for new leaders, first time founders of businesses, and managers seeking to learn more about how to get the most from their teams. So if that sounds like you, head over to that website, hit that green button. It's everywhere on the website. You can't miss the big green button, and that will take you to the sign up page. And if you have any questions, my LinkedIn profile link is also in the show notes, so drop me a message. Happy to have a chat before you sign up for anything. I think that's everything. Join me again next week for another great conversation about leadership and more. I'll see you then, and until I speak to you again, remember to be a leader, not a boss.